was, it was enlightening and helpful. And, you know, I've got to ease up on myself. I'm putting so much pressure on myself in a lot of respects. So anyways, it was just, it was a lot, but we got down the nitty gritty that I'm really not doing what I want, and that's painting,
Yeah.
drawing, making art. And I'm just so consumed with business, 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 business. I got to get this going that I'm causing myself to be anxious over it.
Mhm.
And you know, and all y'all's stuff is invaluable, what you've taught, and I will use it. It's just like, okay, let me figure out exactly what I'm going to be painting and how I'm going to present it. Um, so, anyways,
Oh,
it
I'm
was,
just so glad you got to meet with him.
yeah, it was just a really good brain picking time. And so it's given me some stuff to just kind of mull over and think over. And I'm going to take some time. And I told him I'm just being very, very drawn and pulled. Like, I just want to shut down from everything and just go in a room and just throw paint,
Yeah.
put paint on canvas and just see what God wants to come up and out of that. Cause he was like, what do you really want to do? You know? Um, and I said, well, I want to make art that inspires. And so it, you know, it was neat the way he went about just conversing and all. So it was helpful.
Well,
That's so good.
great. That's
Yeah,
great. Mike's great.
Yeah.
I
Thanks.
really appreciate that you were able to jump on as many of these as you have, because you from the beginning have always been willing to come on and kind of share where you are. And sometimes it's hard because, like you said, it in some ways it translates into pressure, right? And we don't intend for that, but
Oh,
it may
no,
be
it's
just a
not.
natural thing that
Yeah.
happens when you learn about so many of the things that you can do, right? And then it feels like, oh, I want to do it all now. But I love Mike's advice. And you know what? Maybe you just need to go into your room for a few days and throw some paint. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's what you need to do.
Well, we talked about taking a month, you know, and the cool thing is, and let me make it clear, you two have not pressured me at all. Because I told him, I said, when from the get go, I'm like, wow, the stuff they've shared with us and everything's so interesting and all, and so informative, and will be so helpful when I get to that stage.
Yep.
And I can do the building and everything. I would prefer to be at that stage where I'm making so much money. I can say, ladies, you do this for me. But anyway,
So he suggested taking a month.
he threw that out there as an idea. He didn't
Okay.
tell me to do it. He didn't give me an assignment or anything. He said, "What?" And I'd already been thinking about this for a few. It's like every time I get on here, there's like this confirmation. So this has been very beneficial. It's confirming a lot of things. But take time to paint. I'd already been thinking, this is what I feel I'm being pulled to do. And what was the other thing? My art mentorship program. I'm actually going to be gone 4 days in North Carolina in mid-August at a conference there. And so it'll be worship services in the evening and art classes during the day. We got to pick what style of painting or drawing or what art we wanted to learn from a professional. So this has been in the works before I even joined with you ladies. I've been doing that. The conference came up. My friend at church who leads the art ministry, she's like, let's go. At the time I didn't have the money, but boom, I had people given to me, say, hey, we want you to go. So I was blessed. It became a God thing just really fast. And next thing I know, I was signed up. So I'm believing just between now and then, I'll have a better idea of like, this is exactly what I want to do. And then build from there the website when it's time and everything. But another thing I didn't tell y'all is that I did a book cover. I did painting for a book cover for a friend, and she wrote a book on her life experience with a chronic fatigue syndrome.
Oh.
And she was on my mind really heavy last week. And so I wrote her and she was in the hospital. But she's okay. And she's like, I've been meaning to call you. She's going to go set up probably towards the end of August or September at one of the coffee shops here in town, and to just kind of meet people, do a book signing or whatever. And she wants me to tag along and bring some of my art. And then she's going to put it in the newspaper that we're going to be there. So that's going to be another opportunity to come up, within maybe 5 to 6 weeks. Excuse me. So that's what's going on. That's a new thing. I still got to find a printer to make prints of some artwork. And I put in a call to a print shop here in town yesterday, and they've not got back with me. I had to leave a message. So
There might be, because you're doing, you want digital print the actual art, right? Or are you creating digital art yet?
no, prints of my actual art.
Of the
Like
actual,
the ocean wave I did in Florida, and then I have another piece. And there's all kinds of places I've checked online.
okay.
I don't know that I've checked all of them. And they can be a little pricey. And some of them are better than others. It depends on the quantity you get and the paper and everything. Did you have a suggestion?
Sort of. I don't know if it would apply to your art, but you can look at that, because I have used them before for professional photography prints, right? Because a lot of the photographers I use, they just will give me like digital
Right.
access, right? And then I'll print them out, and I've gotten really good. I know that they do like, they work primarily with photographers, but somehow I found them. But anyways, it's mpix.com. So the letter M, PIX.com.
You know what? Probably about 3 years ago, somebody else told me that, and I totally forgot about them. I'll
Yeah,
check.
and they do wall art and photo books, and they also do like the designs on clothing or towels or whatever thing. So you might be able to figure out how they could take your art and maybe put that on some digital prints for you or whatever. And they're very affordable. Now, I haven't used them probably in a couple of years, so I don't know exactly what their prices are, but they were very affordable when I was using them before. So that might be something you could look into, that you would have to probably upload a digital version of your art, but you could probably take a really great digital photo, and then upload it and everything. So
Yeah, I've got one. Jerry has a Nikon camera, and he took pictures before I delivered the artwork to Florida. So I would have to work with that. I took them on my phone too, but his camera would be good. I've checked about four, 5, 6 different places.
okay.
Just looking for the most affordable. The least expenses I have found is like $7 to $9 a print.
Mm-hmm.
And
then it depends on how big they are and what you want to charge for them, because it is your artwork. Yeah.
So I will check this one out. I'm glad you told me. One of my art customers, she told me that she worked for a photographer in town, and
Okay.
they would use them occasionally
For printing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will check into that and see. But I thought, I will check with this company in town just to see what they say. And on the website, it was like no minimum or maximum order. So
Mm-hmm.
we will see.
Yeah, I liked them because I could order, I didn't have to order like a package. I could order however many prints of whatever a photo it was, so I really liked that about them. And I mean, even their wallets would come.
Oh, you're frozen.
Oh no, she froze.
Yeah.
Sometimes our internet does that.
Yeah. I was sitting here wondering because when I talked to Mike, his did it like twice.
I
And then
swear it's our internet. It's our internet. There's something wrong with it. Were you on the one where I kept saying my internet cuts out like unexpectedly? It just goes.
yeah.
Yep, that's what happens. I don't know why. It just leaves, like it's gone. It's not like I'm behind on the bill, although that would be an easier fix, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be a really easy fix,
Yeah.
but no. So I'm not sure about where you get prints for art. I don't, I mean, I know like what she was talking about, like photography and stuff, but when you're talking about art, like how are you submitting it for printing? How does
Well,
it get?
it would have to be a digital.
It would have to be. So how do you digitalize your images so that you keep them with all the shading and everything like that?
Yeah. I really don't know. I mean, when I work on my iPad, I've not printed anything yet. You've got the pixel set and everything. I would just have to ask them, like, here is my snapshot. Is this going to work? That type of thing. Um, so I would just have to send it and see if they thought that it was going to be doable or not.
Okay, because I don't know, Daphne, if you have an idea of how to translate um art, like art to digital art. I mean, I have an idea. I mean, I've done it before, but I didn't know whether you had an idea of a service or something online that was an easier process that Dina could figure out herself to get her art in digital form.
It's from his camera, his Nikon.
Oh,
And his Nikon, and then he downloaded it on my laptop. So I would just be able to pull that up.
oh, it's just a print.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Photo.
yeah, it's a photo. It's a photo from his camera that
Of the art. Yeah.
of the art.
Okay, so then if it's not colored correctly, if it's like slightly, because sometimes you take a picture and there's a background you don't want on it, how
Mhm.
do you handle that part of it? Is that something you've already figured out?
Well, yes and no. There is one app that I came across. What's it called? Photo Room. There is an
Yeah.
app, but it ends up being you have to pay for it. Where it will remove the background to just white or black or transparent. Um, but what I've seen on these websites, I should just take my art and just fill it up within the dimension of the box and just fill in the whole area so that anything behind it would be gone. But when I have taken the pictures, I've normally cropped them down to just the image. So hopefully I haven't lost anything. I don't know. So that's something I'd have to talk to them about, or either, you could, some of these places you can just get a sample.
So I'm trying to think, I did a project for my sister and I'm wondering if I have it here. I found it the other day. It was her wedding invitation. She had a very specific design she wanted for it. And she sent it she sent ideas to my daughter. And then my daughter did it. Like she actually did the art for it.
Cool.
And then, oh, here it is. And then so this is what she did. Can you see that?
Oh yes, that's lovely. She did a
So
beautiful.
she did a really good job, right? Like you can kind of see the outline of the church behind it, like the window. So we put that on there. And then I took this and I did take a picture of it, although it would have been easier if I could scan it, like if I had a really high quality scanner, but I don't. And then I vectorized it so that it was it wasn't pixels, it was vectors. It was so that any size you blow it up to, it's crisp. But it did take a little time to do because it was the first time I'd done it like from this format.
Mhm.
But it definitely turned out, when it printed, it turned out the colors were true. There was
good.
no background on it. And it wasn't difficult. I just had to learn how to manipulate the settings so that I was removing what I needed to, oops, I'm dropping stuff. Removing what I needed to remove and keeping things true to color. And the great thing was I could adjust the color on an individual item, right? Without adjusting the whole picture. I could just pull one part of the candle up and then nudge it so it was a little darker purple or a little lighter purple, right? And so then everything kind of, when it printed out, when it came back from the printer, I sent her the digital file of that. When it came back from the printer, it was exactly what she had envisioned it would be. Yeah. So she sent Evie a hard copy of it, and I don't know where it is. She probably has it. And it looks almost exactly the same as the drawing with the little cursive writing and everything. Yeah.
Beautiful job. And I'm sure that turned out really good. Did you do your vectorizing in Photoshop?
No, I use Photoshop is raster, meaning it's pixels only.
Okay. Yeah.
So I use Adobe Illustrator, which is
Illustrator.
vectors. And you can take a photo and vectorize it completely. So it's all lines and shapes and not pixels. And that way, when you blow it up onto something very large, if you're going to do like a side of a truck or a billboard, it's not fuzzy, if that makes sense. So I did that because it was the best way to keep it really crisp to send it to the printer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's something you're interested in learning or you just need help with it, I'd be happy to jump on and do it for you. I wouldn't charge you for that. Like we could just jump on and you can even walk through it with me on the screen and be like, yeah, that's not what I want. And then I could send it to you. You could look at it and be like, okay, these are the updates I need, right? And then I'll send it back to me and we'll get it. And then maybe while watching me do it, you would learn how to kind of manage the software too.
What kind of software would I need? The Adobe Illustrator?
Yeah, it's Adobe Illustrator. The only problem is it is a cost. Do you know the vectorizing software, Daphne, that isn't a cost?
Yeah, so I just posted 3 links. There was one called befunky.com, and I think their whole platform that you can use. And then the last one that I did was the Skillshare's blog, and it has 3 alternatives to use. So one is Inkscape, which is a free software designed to take doodles and sketches and convert them into vector graphics.
Cool. That would probably be so much easier, huh?
So, and let me click on that link so that I can just grab it and put it there. It's inkscape.org. And I've never used those, but I mean, it would be, you know.
Oh, it says Illustrator. Shoot.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah.
Dina doesn't have that.
And I think with Adobe Illustrator, Dina, you can it's a subscription to where, I mean, you don't have to pay for the whole year. You wanted to try it out. Usually they'll give you like a 30-day trial or a 14-day trial or whatever. And then you would just pay for that one instead of all of the Adobe, what they call essentials, right? So like Photoshop and Illustrator, all these different InDesign things, you could just pay for that one Illustrator per month or whatever. And I don't know how much it is. I would need to look at it because I pay for the whole essentials thing, even though I don't do design work. Maggie does design work, but because we work together, I have it so that I'm able to open up files and things like that. But I know you could just pay for that one.
I think it's $29 a month for me for everything.
For everything. Yeah. For me, it's for everything. But I'm thinking for just Adobe
I don't know how much it is
Illustrator,
for just one. Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out.
because I know they do that with their individual, because like I do that with the PDF one too. So let me go look real quick for you. I get that. So it says try Illustrator with a 7-day free trial. And then let me see how much it is.
Oh, it says alternates, Inkscape, GIMP, and CorelDRAW. CorelDRAW is
The CorelDRAW. I've used CorelDRAW, but a long time ago. Probably like 15, 16 years ago.
It's all in that step-by-step guide.
All right, you know what? This is cool. I'm going to look into this for you too, Dina, and I'm going to figure out if there's a really much simpler than Adobe Illustrator for you to be able to do this sort of in a one-click thing, because Illustrator, it is one click initially, but then you have to do all these adjustments sometimes. So I'm going to look into that and see this week if I could figure out, because I think Daphne's got some really good suggestions here.
Yeah, well, thank you both. That's very
well.
good.
I'm resourceful because I'm not a an artist, but Maggie definitely is, that's her department. She's great at graphics design.
I'm
Well,
not
it's
good
how I started, it's how I got into all of this, was doing some graphic design work for another business. And then it just grew from there. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's sort of my first language. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's her forte, and I'm just resourceful. I'm like, how can I get this done without having to do stuff, right? So I try to like figure things out that way. But anyways, yeah, maybe some of those would work. And then like Maggie said, she'll look into that for you, because she'll know more or less what's going to be easier to implement, right? From a picture to printed. Because once you have that digital image, the printing is like easy. That part's easy. Finding somebody to print those is going to not be the problem. It's just more going to be like getting that image exactly how you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then once you can sell those, you have
Some income.
unlimited resources pretty much, right? You've already created the content. You can sell 100 of those prints if you want to,
Right. Exactly. And that would be nice, because it'd be nice to sell 100, but there's a ministry group called the Wave Makers, and they're interested in it. My only
Oh,
hold up is me getting it done.
Mhm.
That's my biggest hold up. Anytime I run across something like this, it's like, doggone it, why does this have to be so hard? So I spent so much time researching print companies, and whenever I decided which one to use, this would be my next step. Okay. They normally have a little box there, and they say, pull it up in this, and I would know whether I've got whether it's going to be CMYK or RGB and
Right. Right.
all that fun stuff. So,
Mhm.
Well,
Well,
that's so exciting though. That's so exciting. So excited for you.
thank
Because
you.
now you know what direction you're going in, right?
Yeah, I definitely am. I definitely do need to make some prints of that one. And then I did another drawing, and last August I gave it to my sister, and then the same gal, she wanted to buy 2 of prints of it for Christmas gifts, but then we all came down with COVID. My dad got sick and I had surgery, so it never happened. And she was very understanding. She's like, "Oh, girl, you know me. Just whenever you get them," she said, "I'm going to buy them." And she's probably my biggest supporter in art, and she's very she's ready to help me, and
good.
support me and get me out there. But so is this gal with the book. I've got about 3 returning customers that are just really good to me. They'll come back periodically for something, and just very supportive. So, and I can tell that they want to see me succeed with it too. So
I think once you get, you have a sort of you've been on a journey, right, where you've tried to determine like which sort of avenue you should take, and, sort of all of that stuff. And I know at times has felt overwhelming because you have so many ideas and things that you want to do. But I think when we talked in Tuesday's VIP about having prints available to sell, and then you have that income sort of coming in from that, and then you're able to be creative on the back end sort of thing, or even take what do you call it, those commissioned art projects and things like that. Figure out what you can't figure out, right? Like the thing that, like this part where you're like trying to take it from a real art project into a digital image or whatever. Figure out what I'm trying to say is, you don't need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure out how to get it done, right? Like figure out who knows what to do, right? Or how you can get that done easily, and kind of delegate that to maybe even to somebody else or to a different company or something like that, because you're only going to have to do that one time for each print. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you have the digital artwork that you're able to reproduce as much as you want, right? So like with that wave art that you did, and everybody really loved it, if you paid someone, say $30 or $50 just to like take that image from what it is to a digital, you can, print probably 100 of those digitals and they'd sell almost immediately. Not just in a download, but I mean, in the printed format. Like if you took it in a digital print and had it printed into like an 8x10 or, like a canvas, even like where it was a wall, covering sort of thing, people would pay, tons of money, for that. And you have that, you've already created the content, in other words, so even if it's like a small expense, or even if somebody's willing to do it for you without expense, but you can just, where you're not having to figure out every single aspect of the business part, right? Like letting somebody else, take over where you're not, great at it. And, and that's the struggle when you're in business, because you feel like you can't afford to pay anybody to do anything. And then you're like stuck trying to learn. And Maggie and I have been there. We've been there where we're like, man, we really need somebody else to come in and do this for us, and we can't afford to pay them. And and then it's like a little, like a roadblock, to the other side of it. But sometimes it's more mental, I think, than anything else, because we're just trying to figure everything out, So I guess that would be my advice, is whatever you're not good at, try maybe to, like, instead of feeling very responsible for figuring all of the pieces out, like just saying, you know what, somebody else this is their thing. They're great at that. Let's just let them do that. And I can, keep moving on, with the business and make money, instead of letting that be the holdup.
Yeah. And now that you've said that, I'm thinking you might want to try to find someone on Fiverr, because I've done that a lot. When I don't have time to do the work myself, I'll hire someone off Fiverr. And I do have a recommendation on there, actually, who's taken something and helped me edit it. And I can't remember exactly what it was right now, but I'll try to send you a little video on how that platform works, because that might be easier and less expensive than getting a subscription for something to just
that you're not going to use.
Just find an artist on there and have a conversation over message with them and tell them exactly what you're trying to do. And most of the ones that have a lot of projects done, and it shows you not only like their star rating, but it shows you how many successful projects they've done through Fiverr. And I always try to use one that's had a lot, because I like the history. I even read through all of the reviews before I contact anyone. And then I usually start with a small project and I test them out. But this guy's already been tested. So I can also get you that information too, and kind of just give you a video to walk through when you're ready, all that stuff. But like going back to what you were saying at the very beginning and talking about taking a month off, like in your mind, what does that look like? Like, does that mean you get to kind of devote your free time that isn't going to your family or, your mom or any of the things? Do you think you're like, does the idea of sort of shutting yourself off and just giving yourself time to do a lot of this stuff and explore, is that kind of like, is that exciting for you, the prospect of being able to do that?
Yeah, it very much is. I feel like in the back of my head, especially when I start getting frustrated and stuff, I'm just like, okay, I just want to shut everything off and just go to my room and just paint. And I have several different sizes of canvases in my little art area there. So I just want to do that. Yeah, I just want to go with the Lord, and I just want to paint. And I purposely Tuesday went to the supply store because I had been in a class where they do this impasto painting. It's where you use like a gel medium and you build it with texture. And I thought I want to play with that and see if I can master that. Back when I was helping mom and she was real sick, and dad, my son Logan went and bought me like a pack of 8x10 canvases, and he bought me a little easel, and he just bought me supplies and said, now I want you to take these and just paint if you're feeling stressed.
See, he knows your love language. Your son knows your love language. That's so cool.
Every turn around, he is buying me. He bought me a huge easel, and he knows me. He knows me. He actually, honestly, y'all, he bought me my MacBook laptop about
really?
3 years ago for Christmas. He's surprised. I never asked. I didn't ask for any kind of particular computer. He just likes the Apple stuff, and he's like, I bought this for you to help you with your business. And
That's so sweet.
yeah, and then my other son Justin and Jerry are like sitting there like, you just made us look like dirt.
Well, you know, I mean, it's honest. You're always going to have a different connection. It's not that you love them any differently, but you have different relationships with all of your kids. You do, you know, and they
Yeah.
all come in and fill some sort of gap. And for you in the art, that's what this particular son did. That's
Yeah.
really sweet.
It was very sweet. So I've got a lot of support, and I appreciate you two ladies so much. I wished, I prayed, and I thought, God, I wished I had the money to say, hey, here, let me give you business. You know, I want to support you two. I really would love to do that. I'd love to jump on and start the website and get it all going, but it's just not in the budget. It's just not. And so all I can do is, you know, I've told other people about you guys and pray. Just pray for both of y'all
Oh, that's
and
so
for
cool.
this and for everything else you do. Yeah, I've talked to the Lord. I'm like, God, you know my heart. I would love to just be able to say, here, you know, and let me help you with that. So that's one of my desires, you know, to be able to give and to minister through the art. But I need to. Michael's very helpful. He's like, well, what do you want? What do you want to paint? You know, and the more we got to talking, I said, well, he says, what do you want to do with your paintings? And I said, well, I want them to inspire. I want them to motivate. I want them to touch people. I want them, you know, there be a connection or whatever. And then he started talking. He says, so you want your art to do, and I said, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. And he goes, okay, we're going to write that down. Today's date, you said that's exactly what I want to do.
That's what he did with me. That's how we worked through all of this. He took me through that. And, you know, I feel bad for him because I look back at all those times. I was so lost. Like I had really no direction that I think he was never frustrated with me ever. But I felt like I was like this burden because I was like, is that really what you want to do? And then we come back the next week and I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. This is what I really want to do. And then 3 months later, I'm like, yeah, scrap that. That's not what I want to do. Poor Mike, he put up with me for so long.
Well,
So,
he spoke very highly of you and of your work you do, and your art, the graphics and stuff. So, you know, yeah, he was. He'd say, well, don't even think you don't, you know, doing art doesn't necessarily have to have an emotional connection. And he was very good about saying, now I'm going to just throw this out here, but I'm not saying this about you. And he said, but you seem so, you know, and overwhelmed. And I'm like, well, I am. But it was good. It was good. So,
Well, great. That's great. Because, you know, you do need sometimes that outward, you know, perspective, right? To
mhm.
like point some things out and stuff like that. You know, in business too, like I know people do that like individually, you know, they'll, you know, do therapy or counseling or whatever, or talk, or church and friends and groups, support groups, different things, right? Where people get, but like, that's why we created this, because people need that in business and sometimes they don't even realize that they need that in business, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of times where I felt that way. I'm like, man, I wish there was just like a business group that I could go to, like, and say, this is what's going on. How are the rest of you guys dealing with this stuff? Right.
Mhm.
And we had a little bit of that support and some other groups, but it's not the same thing. I mean, you're not, you know, dealing with the personal personal aspect of the business, you know. So it's really great when you can get that sort of one-on-one from somebody else and say, hey, you know, what's your perspective on this, and you know, be open to it, you know, and everything. So that's wonderful that you guys made that connection.
Yeah, and I appreciate Maggie you sending me his email. And he
well,
said, "Well,
he actually chased me again. which
Okay.
is why I messaged you on Facebook. He's like, I really want to talk to her. Like, I really, did you give her my email? I'm like, yeah, I did.
Well, he's such a gentle spirit, and you can tell he does genuinely care about people
He
and
does.
wanting them to see them get into their niche and what they're supposed to do. So, yeah, and
Yeah, that's definitely his gift. It really is. Yeah.
it is. And he was like, "Well, just this is a suggestion, and just keep me informed. You've got my contact." And I'm like, "Okay, first off, Mike, I appreciate your time, and I know you're busy, and I have no money to give you."
But that's not why he does it.
I know, but what little I've got has got to sustain me on this conference, and
Yeah, he understands that. Yeah.
yeah, but he was fine. He said, "I offered," and I thought, "You're so kind," and he was kind, very kind. And it's funny because you do all this. One thing I've noticed, I've definitely been out of my comfort zone. Um, and when you're out of your mind just does things. It's like, oh my gosh, you sound so weak. You sound so indecisive, like you don't know anything. All these scenarios coming at your head, and it's like, but it's just not an area that I'm strong in. That's okay. As far as the business end of it, and it's gonna feel uncomfortable, and it's gonna feel kind of weird, but everybody has been so sweet and kind. You two ladies, and then the other ones. I just got to a point where I felt like I feel so lost, and that I'm starting to sound like a broken record, and I don't want to get on and whine and complain. So
I don't think I've ever perceived any of the lives with you complaining.
well, and that just comes from that feeling uncomfortable. Then it makes you feel insecure. And I mean, I remember one time I just was like a nervous wreck. I thought, oh my word, Lord, you are really stretching me. What am I doing?
Oh, and that part's uncomfortable.
But when you go all these years just doing the same thing, and it's time to step up and do something different. And just because I came to this point doesn't mean, okay, it's right away.
Mhm.
Okay, now you've gotten this far, you've gotten all this information. Now you're going to have to back up just a smidgen and figure this part out. And then it'll happen. And that's how Mike was saying. He was very encouraging. It's going to happen. That eventually you're going to do this or that. But anyway, so it's been a neat experience. I just pray, Lord blesses you ladies for all your time and effort. And he will for sure.
Yeah, it's been really, I mean, I can't speak for Daphne. I can only speak for me, but it's been really great for me. This is, like you say, you've been stretched by being on these. This was a hard transition for me to get in front of a camera every single week. It was really difficult for me because, I mean, the weird thing is, like, I've spoken to rooms of 1,000 people. I can get up in front of live people, but for some reason, the camera intimidates me. Maybe because there's, it's so close to your face, and I don't know. Anyways, it was a real struggle for me. I really, really, I mean, I was really, it caused a lot of anxiety for me, but then, it's part of the job, right? So I had to just kind of get used to it. There have been a lot of times where I felt really intimidated. Sometimes when I'm in other groups, and I'm listening to these people talk about successes, and I'm like, I don't even know how to get there. Like, what's the first step? There are so many steps here. I don't even know, like, where's the first step? And the interesting thing is that now that I'm listening to you talk about sort of this, on this sort of awakening in after your conversation with Mike, I'm wondering if that's a dimension that we need to add to the program. Where that's sort of when you come in, that you have an opportunity to go through something like you went through with Mike, that kind of helps you start thinking about what you're actually doing, what you want to do, rather than what you're doing. And because that's really, it's been really powerful for you, I can tell.
It has been. And I know that this was sort of new for y'all kicking this off, and neither one of you, and Maggie, you've never come across It's all been very professional on both y'all's end, and I've never thought, oh man, they're very comfortable at doing this.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
At the
no.
beginning, it was just all fake because I was like, oh my gosh,
Well,
people can see
pulled
me.
it off. You pulled it off well. So,
Oh, phew.
well, I don't want to keep y'all because I know y'all have a lot of work to do. And
Well, this is your time. And you got to be one-on-one because you're the only one that came.
yeah,
So, you know.
Mike said he wouldn't get to be here, that he had some other obligations. And he said, I'll see you next week. But anyways,
I'm so glad he's part of the group. It is a different perspective. I like when he's on because men, you know, innately in business and a lot of things, they do come from another place, like you had said earlier. And it does kind of round out some of the things that, yeah, it was good. Thanks, Dina.
yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, for being here and listening to me.
Of course.
Catch you gals up.
And